Admiral Jihoon stared at the massive screen in the command center. Thousands of alien ships floated in space like deadly stars. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ships looked like giant crystals that caught light and threw it back in rainbow colors. Behind them, other ships glowed with pure energy, shifting and moving like living fire. "How many?" Jihoon asked quietly. "Over 50,000 ships, sir," replied Captain Yunbi. Her voice shook slightly. "And those are just the ones we can see." The command center fell silent. Every person in the room knew what this meant. Humanity had been exploring space for 300 years. They had built colonies on dozens of worlds. They thought they were alone in the galaxy. They were wrong. Dr. Hana stepped forward. She was the smartest person Jihoon knew when it came to alien life. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's in perfect Korean, and English, and Chinese, and every human language. Put it through," Jihoon ordered. The voice that filled the room was not human. It sounded like music made of ice and starlight. "Humans of the third spiral arm, we are the hegemony. We have watched your species spread across our territory like a disease." Jihoon felt his blood turn cold. Around him, officers gripped their chairs. The voice continued. "You reproduce too quickly. You change too fast. You take what is not yours. This cannot continue." "We claim no territory that belonged to anyone else," Jihoon said into the microphone. "We have found no signs of intelligent life on any world we have settled." A sound like laughter echoed through the speakers, but it was not friendly. "Ignorant children. You see only what your limited senses can detect. You have built your colonies on sacred grounds. You have disturbed the resting places of civilizations that ruled the stars before your son was born." Dr. Hana moved to her computer terminal. Her fingers flew over the keys as she tried to analyze the transmission. "Sir," she whispered, "the energy patterns in this signal, they're impossible. These beings have technology we can't even understand." The alien voice spoke again. "We offer you one chance, humans. You have 72 of your hours to withdraw every human settlement to your birth system. Every colony, ship must return to the yellow star you call Sol. Every outpost must be abandoned." "And if we refuse?" Jihoon asked, though he already feared the answer. "Then you will join the countless species that came before you. Your worlds will be cleansed. Your history will be erased. Your very atoms will be scattered to the void." The transmission ended. The command center remained quiet for long moments. Outside the windows, Earth looked peaceful and blue, unaware that the fate of all humanity hung in the balance. "Sir," said Commander Dongho from the tactical station, "our fleet has maybe 200 ships, good ships, but—" He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Dr. Hana looked up from her computer. "I'm reading energy signatures from their ships that are off the charts. One of those vessels could probably destroy our entire home fleet without taking damage." Jihoon walked to the large window that showed Earth below. He had spent his whole life protecting humanity. He had fought pirates in the outer colonies. He had led rescue missions when colonies were hit by disasters. But this was different. This was impossible. "How long do we have?" he asked. 71 hours and 34 minutes, Yunbi replied. "Sir, should we contact the colonies, tell them to evacuate?" Jihoon thought about the millions of humans living on other worlds, families who had been born in space, children who had never seen Earth, entire cities built with human dreams and sweat. "Not yet. There has to be another way." "Sir?" Dr. Hana approached him carefully. "There might be something. I've been studying some old records from the earliest colony missions. There are gaps in our history, things that don't make sense." "What kind of things?" "The first colony ships carried more advanced technology than they should have had. And there are stories, legends really, about humans having abilities that we've lost. I know it sounds crazy, but what if we're not telling ourselves the whole truth about who we are?" Jihoon turned to look at her. "You think there's something in our past that could help us?" "I don't know, but we have 71 hours to find out. And sir, I think we should start looking in the old archives, the really old ones, from before we left Earth." Outside, the alien fleet waited like a sword hanging over humanity's head. Jihoon made his decision. Get me a team of our best researchers. Start pulling every old record we have. If there's something in our past that can save us, we're going to find it. Dr. Minho wiped sweat from his face as he crawled through the narrow tunnel. His team had been digging on Kepler 442b for 3 days straight. This was humanity's first colony world, settled almost 300 years ago. Now it might hold the key to their survival. "Doctor, you need to see this," called Yuna from deeper in the ruins. Her voice echoed strangely in the underground chamber. Minho squeezed through the opening and gasped. The walls were covered in symbols that looked almost human, but not quite. They glowed softly with their own light. More importantly, they seemed to respond to human presence, growing brighter as his team approached. "These markings," whispered Hyun, the team's language expert. "They're not in any human writing system I know, but when I look at them, I almost understand what they mean." Yuna pointed to a section of wall where the symbols formed clear patterns. "Look here. These marks keep repeating. And this symbol," she traced it with her finger. The wall pulsed with gentle light. "It feels familiar somehow." Minho activated his communicator. "Command, this is the archaeological team. We've found something. The ruins here are much older than our colony, but they're designed for humans to find them." Back on Earth, Admiral Jihoon received the report in his command center. "What do you mean designed for humans?" "Sir, the symbols respond to human touch. The passages are built for human-sized beings. It's like someone left us a message and waited 300 years for us to read it." Dr. Hana, who had been working with ancient Earth records, suddenly looked up from her computer. "Sir, I'm finding similar patterns in some very old files. There are references to something called Protocol Omega in documents that supposedly date back thousands of years." "Show me," Jihoon ordered. On the main screen, symbols appeared that matched what Minho's team had found on the colony world. But these were hidden in the deepest archives of human history, buried under layers of regular historical records. "Sir," Dr. Hana continued, "these files point to a location on Earth, coordinates in the mountains of the Korean Peninsula. The records say there's something buried there, something important." Within hours, a team was flying toward the mountains. Dr. Su led the group, along with engineers and archaeologists. The coordinates led them to a valley that looked completely normal, rolling hills covered with grass and trees, nothing special at all. "The readings say it's here," said Engineer Jun, checking his scanners. "About 50 meters down." They began digging. The work was hard and slow. Hours passed. The alien fleet still waited in space, counting down the time until humanity's deadline. Then Jun's shovel hit something that wasn't stone or earth. It rang like metal but felt warm like living tissue. "Everyone back," Dr. Su ordered. They cleared away more dirt and found a smooth surface that covered the entire area they had been digging. It was neither metal nor stone, but something in between. When Dr. Su placed her hand on the surface, it began to glow. Lines of light spread out from her touch, forming patterns and symbols. The ground shook slightly, and a section of the surface lifted up like a door. "It knows we're human," Su whispered in amazement. Below the door was a staircase that led down into soft blue light. The walls were covered in the same symbols they had found on the colony world. But here, there were also images, pictures that moved and changed as they watched. The images showed the galaxy as it was long ago, stars arranged in perfect patterns, worlds that hummed with impossible technology, and beings that looked human but could do things that seemed like magic. They could change matter with their thoughts. They could speak across vast distances without machines. They could make stars dance in the sky. "My God," breathed Dr. Su. "These are our ancestors." The moving pictures told a story. The human-like beings had built an empire that spanned the entire galaxy. They had created wonders beyond imagination, but they had also created something terrible. Dark things that came from beyond the galaxy's edge. Monsters that ate reality itself. The war that followed nearly destroyed everything. In the end, the human ancestors won, but at a terrible price. They realized their power was too dangerous, so they chose to give it up. They chose to forget. The final images showed small groups of these beings scattering across the galaxy. They changed themselves, made themselves weaker, simpler. They hid their true nature even from themselves. They became the humans that would one day rediscover the stars. "We're not just humans," Dr. Sue said into her communicator, her voice shaking. "We're the children of the architects, the first civilization in the galaxy. And we chose to forget who we were." In the deepest part of the chamber, they found devices that hummed with patient energy, waiting, ready to remind humanity of what they had been, and what they could become again, if they dared. The countdown continued, but now humanity had hope. The first sign came when Jemin was fixing a broken pipe on Mars Colony 7. He was tired and frustrated after working for 12 hours straight. The metal pipe had cracked in 3 places, and he needed special tools to repair it properly. But the tools were back at the main station hours away. Jemin stared at the broken pipe and wished it would just fix itself. Then something impossible happened. The metal began to move. The cracks slowly closed as if the pipe was healing itself. But it wasn't the pipe that was changing. It was Jamin's mind somehow reaching out and reshaping the metal. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding. "That's not possible," he whispered. Across the solar system, similar things were happening to humans everywhere. On Europa, Teacher Soman was reading to her class of young children when she suddenly heard her sister's voice. Not through a communicator or phone, but directly in her mind. Her sister was on Earth, millions of kilometers away. "Soman, can you hear me?" "Something strange is happening," the voice said clearly in her thoughts. Soman gasped and dropped her book. The children looked at her with concern. "Teacher, are you okay?" She tried to answer, but her consciousness seemed to slip away from her body. Suddenly, she could see through her sister's eyes. She was looking at the mountains of Korea, at the excavation site where the ancient chamber had been found. Back on Mars, Jemin called his supervisor. "Sir, something weird just happened. I think I fixed a pipe with my mind." His supervisor, Kyung, laughed. "Jemin, you've been working too hard. Take a break." But an hour later, Kyung called him back. Her voice was shaking. "Jamin, I just watched a wrench float across my workshop and land in my hand, without anyone touching it. Reports started flooding in from all over the human colonies. People were doing things that should have been impossible. Nari, a farmer on Kepler 442b, discovered she could make plants grow faster just by thinking about it. Wu Jin, a pilot flying between the outer moons, found he could sense other ships without using his instruments. Dr. Hana monitored these reports from Earth's command center. Her hands shook as she read each new message. "Sir, it's happening everywhere. Humans are manifesting abilities that shouldn't exist." Admiral Jihoon studied the data. "Is this connected to what we found in the chamber?" "It has to be. Ever since we opened that vault, something has been changing in our DNA. It's like the discovery triggered something that was sleeping inside all of us." The most dramatic change happened to 16-year-old Taiyang. He was studying astronomy at the Lunar Research Station when he touched a star chart. The moment his fingers made contact with the display, his eyes rolled back and he began to speak in a voice that wasn't quite his own. "The lights in the sky," he said slowly. "They're not what you think they are. They're not natural. They're machines, living machines, and they remember us." Dr. Hana rushed to the lunar station immediately. She found Taeyang sitting in front of the star chart, his hand still pressed against the display. But now the chart was showing things that weren't in any database. Lines of connection between stars. Patterns that pulsed like heartbeats. "Taeyang, can you hear me?" she asked gently. He turned to look at her, and his eyes were different. They seemed to hold depths of knowledge that no 16-year-old should possess. "Dr. Hana, yes, I can hear you, but I can hear them too. The stars, they're calling to us." "What are they saying?" "They're saying, 'Welcome home.' They've been waiting for us to remember who we are." Taeyang's hand moved across the star chart, and new information appeared. "Every star in this galaxy is a biomechanical construct. Our ancestors built them long ago. They're not just sources of light and heat. They're weapons, tools, and we still have the codes to control them. The revelation hit Dr. Hana like a physical blow. The stars themselves are machines. More than machines. They're alive in a way, and they respond to us because we're their creators' children. Taiyang looked back at the chart. But Dr. Hana, there's something else. The awakening isn't just happening to us, it's happening because we need it. Because the danger is real. As if to confirm his words, alarms began sounding throughout the lunar station. The hegemony fleet had started moving. 50,000 alien ships were accelerating toward the inner solar system. Back on Earth, Admiral Ji-hoon felt the change in himself too. His thoughts seemed clearer and faster. He could sense the emotions of his crew without looking at them. And when he looked at the tactical displays, he began to understand patterns that his military training had never taught him. "Sir," Captain Yunbi reported, "the alien fleet will reach Earth in 18 hours. But sir, our people, they're changing. Reports are coming in that some of our citizens can manipulate matter, read minds, even seem to phase through solid walls." Ji-hoon nodded grimly. Humanity was remembering its true nature. But would it be enough to face the hegemony? And what price would they pay for awakening powers that their ancestors had chosen to forget? The stars above began to pulse with a rhythm that matched the beating of human hearts. The hegemony fleet arrived like a storm, made of crystal and fire. Admiral Ji-hoon watched from the command ship's bridge as 50,000 alien vessels surrounded Earth. The crystalline ships of the Vexhai caught sunlight and threw it back in deadly rainbows. The energy beings called Korvani pulsed with angry red light. "They're beautiful," whispered Captain Yunbi. "And terrifying." Ji-hoon felt different now. The awakening had changed him too. His thoughts moved faster than before. He could sense the fear and determination of his crew without looking at them. Most importantly, he could feel something vast stirring in the space around them. The stars themselves seemed to be watching. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead hegemony ship," reported Communications Officer Sieben. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was cold and musical. "Humans, your time has ended. You have not withdrawn your colonies as commanded. Prepare for cleansing." "We're not the same species you gave that ultimatum to," Ji-hoon replied calmly. "We remember who we are now." A sound like breaking glass came through the speakers. "Impossible. You are primitives with crude technology. You have had 3 of your centuries to develop. We have had millions. But you built nothing," said a new voice. Taiyang had entered the bridge, his young face serious beyond his years. "You inherited everything from those who came before. We created it all." The alien response was immediate. Energy beams lanced out from the hegemony ships, striking Earth's defense platforms. The weapons should have vaporized the human structures instantly. Instead, the platforms absorbed the energy and grew stronger. "What sorcery is this?" the alien voice demanded. Dr. Hana's voice came through the communication system from the lunar research station. "It's not sorcery. It's remembering. Our people on those platforms are unconsciously reshaping matter at the atomic level. Your weapons are making us stronger." Across the solar system, humans were discovering the full extent of their awakened abilities. Engineer Do-yun, working on a damaged ship near Jupiter, found he could repair hull breaches by thinking the metal back into proper shape. Pilot Minju, flying a scout ship through the asteroid belt, realized she could phase her entire vessel through solid rock. But as the humans grew stronger, something else was stirring in the deep places between stars. Dr. Minho's voice crackled through from the archaeological site on Kepler 442b. "Admiral, we've translated more of the ancient records. There's something you need to know about Protocol Omega." "Tell me," Ji-hoon ordered, as another wave of alien attacks harmlessly struck human positions. "The stellar network. It's not just a weapon. It's also a beacon. Our ancestors used it in their war against something called the Devourers, extra-dimensional beings that feed on reality itself. When Protocol Omega is activated, it might attract their attention." Ji-hoon felt his blood turn cold. "How dangerous are these Devourers?" According to the records, they're the reason our ancestors chose to forget their power and hide as ordinary humans. The Devourers can only enter our reality when massive amounts of energy are used in specific patterns like the ones created by the stellar network. Taiyang stepped forward. Admiral, I can feel them out there. In the spaces between spaces. They're already stirring because of our awakening. If we use Protocol Omega, we might save humanity from the hegemony but doom the entire galaxy. Ji-hoon finished grimly. The hegemony ships pressed their attack. More vessels appeared from hyperspace. Hundreds of thousands now surrounded not just Earth but every human colony. The alien commander's voice filled the bridge again. Your tricks cannot save you forever, primitives. We will burn every world you have touched. We will scatter your atoms to the void. Dr. Hana appeared on the main screen via quantum link. Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildup in their fleet. They're preparing something big, a weapon that could crack planets. Ji-hoon closed his eyes and reached out with his awakened senses. He could feel the stellar network humming with patient power. 10 billion stars waiting for a single command. The override codes pulsed in his DNA like a second heartbeat. He could also feel something else, a darkness between the stars. Ancient hunger pressing against the walls of reality. The Devourers waiting for someone to give them an opening. Admiral, Captain Yunbi said urgently, the alien weapon will fire in 60 seconds. We need to make a choice. Ji-hoon opened his eyes and looked around the bridge, at his crew who trusted him, at Taiyang, so young but carrying ancient wisdom, at the Earth floating below them, blue and beautiful and filled with 8 billion human lives. Dr. Minho, in your archaeological research, did our ancestors ever find another way to stop the Devourers without using the stellar network? A long pause. No, sir. But they found something else. The network doesn't have to be used as a weapon. It can be used as a teacher. What do you mean? The stars don't just destroy, Admiral. They can share knowledge, show truth, force understanding. Ji-hoon looked at the activation key in his palm. The weight of two choices. Save humanity and risk everything, or let humanity die and keep the galaxy safe. He made his decision. Admiral Ji-hoon held the activation key in his trembling hand. Around him, the bridge crew watched in silence. Outside, the windows. The hegemony fleet prepared to fire weapons that could destroy planets. He had seconds to decide the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. Protocol Omega is ready, sir, reported Taiyang quietly. But remember, once we start this, there's no going back. Ji-hoon thought about his daughter on Earth, about the millions of families across human space, about the choice his ancestors had made long ago to hide their power and live as ordinary people. They had been wise, but now wisdom meant something different. I'm not activating it as a weapon, he said suddenly. Dr. Minho, you said the stars could teach, that they could force understanding. Yes, sir. The network can share knowledge directly into consciousness, make beings experience truth instead of just hearing it. Then that's what we'll do. Ji-hoon pressed the key. Activate Protocol Omega, teaching mode. Show them what we learned. The effect was immediate and beautiful, beyond description. Every star in the galaxy suddenly dimmed for a heartbeat, then began to pulse with gentle rhythmic light. 10 billion suns beating in perfect harmony, like the greatest symphony ever created. The light wasn't harsh or violent. It was warm and welcoming, like a parent's voice calling children home. On the bridge, Taiyang gasped and pointed at the main screen. Look at their ships! The crystalline vessels of the Vexhai had stopped firing. Their sharp, aggressive angles were softening, becoming more curved and peaceful. The energy beings called Corvani were changing too. Their angry red glow faded to soft blues and greens. Dr. Hana's voice came through from the lunar station, filled with wonder. Sir, I'm reading massive changes in their brain patterns. All of them. Every alien in the fleet. The stellar harmony was doing more than just creating light. It was transmitting pure meaning directly into the consciousness of every intelligent being in the galaxy. The aliens were experiencing human memories, human emotions, human dreams. They felt what it was like to be curious instead of superior, to wonder instead of conquer, to build instead of destroy. The alien commander's voice returned, but it was completely different now. Where before it had been cold and musical, now it carried something the hegemony had never known: humility. We see, the voice whispered. You are not primitives. You are the children of the builders, the ones who taught the galaxy to dream. And you are not our enemies. Jihoon replied gently. You are our children too, in a way. The beings our ancestors helped to evolve long before they chose to forget. Across the fleet, miraculous changes continued. The rigid military formations broke apart as individual ships began moving in graceful, artistic patterns. Crew members on alien vessels were experiencing wonder for the first time. They looked at their own hands with amazement. They stared at stars and saw beauty instead of territory to control. Chae-young, monitoring from Luna Base, reported with awe in her voice. Sir, they're not just changing mentally. Their technology is changing too. The weapons are becoming art, scientific instruments, tools for exploration, not destruction. The transformation spread beyond the immediate fleet. As the stellar network continued its gentle song, reports came in from across the galaxy. Every member of the hegemony on every world was experiencing the same awakening. Billions of beings suddenly understood that the universe was not something to be conquered, but something to be celebrated. On Kepler 442b, Dr. Minho watched as Vexhai ground forces laid down their crystal weapons and began examining the ancient ruins with scientific curiosity instead of suspicion. They want to learn, he reported. They're asking if they can help us translate the old records. The harmony continued for exactly 1 hour. Then, slowly, the stars returned to their normal light. But the silence that followed was not empty. It was peaceful, full of possibility. The alien commander spoke again. Children of the architects, we owe you a debt we can never repay. We came to destroy you, and instead, you gave us souls. Jihoon smiled sadly. We gave you what our ancestors almost lost themselves, the ability to choose creation over destruction. What happens now? Asked Captain Yunbi quietly. Taeyang answered, his young voice carrying ancient wisdom. Now we do what our ancestors should have done. We become the guardians of the galaxy. We watch for threats that might require the network's awakening, but we never use it unless we absolutely must. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to change in wonderful ways. The former hegemony worlds became centers of learning and art. Humans shared their rediscovered knowledge freely, while other species offered their own unique insights. Together they began to heal worlds damaged by ages of conquest. Admiral Jihoon often stood at his window, looking up at the stars. They twinkled peacefully now, but he could feel their patient awareness. They were waiting, watching, ready to teach the next lesson the universe might need. Humanity had learned the hardest truth of all, that true power meant knowing when not to use it. The stars remained silent, but they were listening.